Before and after. Glowy and beautiful, no oil, okay? Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, also welcome. Today I'm gonna be showing you how to achieve glowy makeup without looking oily, okay? Glowy, not oily. Okay, we're just gonna get right into it. So the first thing that you want to consider is skin prep, which is going to come down to your skin type, not only your skin type, but also your environment, the kinds of products that you're using and how they all kind of combine. I actually recently did a video about this that I will link above in the corner that goes like very much into depth about how to combine certain formulas and find the like the right foundation formula for you. Some of that is going to go more in depth about things like dehydration, skin dehydration, and a lot of people get like a lot of excessive oiliness in their T-zone, which can be a result of dehydrated skin. So your skincare, very important, okay? I just washed my face a little while ago, maybe like 30 minutes ago, washed my face, did a light exfoliation with a little bit of glycolic acid pad, and then applied just some moisturizer and a tiny bit of eye cream. Not a lot. You can kind of see, let me zoom you in, that my skin is looking like nice and hydrated, but it's definitely not oily, right? I have like decent moisture to the skin, nothing sticky, nothing greasy looking, okay? Now, my skin looks pretty good, but it does feel to me like I require just like a little bit extra, something for my foundation and the base makeup to hold onto, something kind of grippy. And I typically like to build up a little bit more moisture in the outer perimeter of my face, okay? Keeping my T-zone, an area that can end up looking oily quickly, a little bit more on the matte side, I would say matte natural side. So for the outer perimeter of my face, I'm gonna use a little bit of the All Nighter primer from Urban Decay, which is meant to last, okay? It's meant to be like a very grippy base for your makeup. So if you have a difficult time with like oiliness in your T-zone, but you feel like you want a little bit more grip to the skin, this is a really great option because it's like relatively moisturizing, but it's not too dewy. So you can see that it adds like kind of like a nice hydration to the skin, but really what this is for is just kind of like creating more of a grip so that my makeup is going to last. And I'm focusing this very much in the outer perimeter of my face. Now, if you feel like your whole face could use more moisture, then you can go in all over. It's not like a particularly wet primer. As you can see now, I'm kind of like patting it in and I can feel like a little bit more grip. And then as it's kind of like setting, I'm gonna bring just a little bit, just tapping it toward the center of my face because again, I wanna make sure that my skin is like well hydrated enough, but not oily. Now in the past, when I was dealing with like very dehydrated skin and I was getting a lot of oiliness in my T-zone, I would typically go in with like a slightly more blurring or mattifying primer. I was using the Smashbox Photo Finish primer. I don't really need to do that because the way my T-zone is looking right now is pretty healthy. Not particularly oily. I don't have a lot of shine there, but it is like well enough moisturized. So I'm gonna skip this step because I personally don't need it. Pore filling primers like Tatcha or like the e.l.f. one, I've always had a difficult time with those. If you have a mattifying primer that works for you, then I would recommend using that if you're someone who gets like a lot of excessive oiliness in your T-zone. Then that's something that you want to look into. I really liked this one because it's like hydrating enough and it blurs and kind of smooths the area, that area of your face where you can get like larger pores, but it doesn't end up making your face look like too matte or, I don't know, I just get like a lot of breakage a lot of the time with like pore filling primers. So this is a really great option. You want to focus this kind of a product in the center of the face because if you got dewiness happening in the center in your T-zone, no matter what, even if it is just like a dewy glow, it's gonna look like oil. That's what we're trying to avoid. So now that my skin is like well enough prepped, I am going to apply my foundation, which is pretty much always my first step. Shout out to Clio for sponsoring this portion of the video. If you don't know Clio, I don't know how you wouldn't know Clio. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you already know that I love their mascara so much. I have 3 products that I'm going to be highlighting for you in this video. We're gonna start off with the Clio Kill Cover Mesh Glow Foundation. Okay, this one is in the shade Linen 3BY. We're also going to be using, to intensify the glow, which you've already seen if you've watched my channel, the new Prism highlighter, which I'm obsessed with because I've been using it in like every single video. And then also their new Sharp Curling Mascara. This is number 10. I'm just gonna pop in like a really quick before and after so you can see what the finished product looks like. Okay, before and after. Glowy and beautiful, no oil, okay? So if you guys don't know Clio, especially their cushion foundation is a bestseller on Amazon. You can get all of these products on Amazon. I'm gonna start in the center of my face where I didn't apply my Urban Decay primer. If you applied a smoothing, blurring, or mattifying primer in your T-zone, you want to start there so that you're not accidentally mixing formulas, okay? So if you used a slightly more glowy primer on the outer perimeter of your face to create like more hydration or just more grip, then you want to make sure that you're not starting there and then bringing that like dew into the center of your face. You want to start in the center of your face where you want to keep things like more natural looking. So this is a very moisturizing foundation. It has a semi-glow finish. As you can see, it's very hydrating, which is another reason that I didn't need to build up hydration in my T-zone. A lot of people who experience oiliness in their T-zone tend to be kind of like nervous about using something moisturizing, a more moisturizing formula. But like I mentioned in that video that I definitely think you should check out, if you haven't watched it already, dehydrated skin can often end up, like when you're over exfoliating or you're dehydrating your skin, you're not moisturizing it enough, it can end up producing excess oil and excess breakouts. So you don't want to be afraid of moisture, okay? Like hydrating your skin is very important. So I'm focusing this in the center of the face, and then I'm slowly going to build this out toward the outer perimeter of my face. And as you can see, I'm just kind of doing like light motions. If there's any area where I feel like I want like a little bit more coverage, I'll just kind of press a little more lightly and slowly to make sure that I'm not like picking up or moving around too much product. This foundation is really nice because it has a very natural but buildable finish. So if there are certain areas that need more coverage, you can focus like more coverage in those areas without it feeling heavy. So you can kind of see like the center of my face had a lot more redness. So I applied a little bit more of the product there, and then I'm just slowly like kind of blending it out so that we get like a nice natural looking finish. One of the other reasons that the little puff is useful is usually, and if you've been watching my channel, you know, I like to most of the time apply my foundation with a damp beauty sponge, okay? A damp beauty sponge. However, sometimes the excess moisture from the damp beauty sponge can end up like mixing with a certain formula and making it look too dewy, which again, I talked about in that video that I referenced. By using something that does not contain extra moisture, it allows the formula to do exactly like what it's doing without, you know, mixing it or manipulating it in any way. Okay, so now we have such a beautiful, like natural sort of like glass skin finish with the foundation. I'm gonna move into sculpting my face before I go in with my concealer. Okay, I personally prefer sculpting and bronzing my face using creams. If you've been watching my channel, then you know Anastasia Beverly Hills Fawn and Merit Quince, I'm gonna call it Quince because I don't know. People told me like 3 different ways to pronounce it. I'm gonna call it Quince. Is a relatively new shade. It's the lightest shade of the Merit bronzer, but I prefer using like lighter applications of creams in the outer perimeter of my face. Now, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Fawn is like a relatively matte stick. So if you are a little bit more like on the oily side, it's not gonna be like so overwhelming with moisture for your skin. And kind of the same thing with the Merit bronzer. I would say it's a little bit more on the sheer side, maybe slightly more hydrating. But as you can see, like when you look at the sticks themselves, they don't look particularly dewy. Like I would say Merit maybe like a little bit more. I think the formulas are well enough balanced, so they're not going to make you look like too dewy. So this part of the tutorial, especially if you have watched my videos, is pretty much the same. This is like how I always do my makeup. Sculpting my jawline. So below the jawline, building that up. Using Fawn because it's slightly more cool toned as my sculpting shade. Create more of like a shadow effect to the skin. And I'm picking it up with my brush. rather than drawing it on so that I'm not going out. This is like such a weird, I don't know how to get this earring out of here. Rather than going and drawing straight onto my face so that I'm not applying way too much. Okay, same thing for the cheekbones, just picking up a little bit on my brush and focusing it up high. This is going to depend very much on your face shape. I just recently filmed another video about contouring your face shape, which it's on this side, a link if you're interested in that. If you are someone who is going to be contouring or placing bronzer more in like the center of your cheek, and you tend to have like a slightly more oily T-zone, then you want to make sure that whatever products you're using are not super dewy, because that's just going to bring like too much moisture into the center of your face. And no matter how much powder you apply, you're probably going to break out in oil later on in the day. So make sure that you're keeping those formulas in mind. And maybe you just want to skip creams completely, depending on like where you're putting those products. Maybe just stick to specifically powder products. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing with the bronzer, picking it up with that same brush. And I'm gonna start with my forehead. Now just adding a little bit of warmth and shape to the forehead. Again, if your forehead is an area that tends to get oily throughout the day, maybe skip the cream and stick to a powder bronzer. And since this bronzer is like ever so slightly more on the dewy side, I mean, I'm keeping it up in the area where the sun would naturally hit my face, but I'm making sure not to bring it like too far in. And make sure that you're not skipping out on bronzer, because one of the ways that you can end up making your face look like glowy without looking oily is to make sure that you're creating like a really beautiful warmth to the skin. If you're just going in with a cool toned contour shade and you're not warming up your skin, then the glowy look is not going to translate the same way. It's not going to look like a summer glow, you know? All right, I'm going to contour my lips and nose, which is not necessary, but it's something that I absolutely have to do. I'm just gonna lightly sketch in my brows a little bit so I have a little bit of a shape, but I want to keep them a little bit softer. Obviously your brows are like so personal the way that you want to do them, but when I'm thinking like glowy, I'm thinking fresh skin, and for me that feels like lighter brows. So I'm just going in with a little bit of a blonde brow pencil, create a little bit of a base to the brow, and we're gonna come back and finish that later. Now, you can't look glowy. I mean, I guess you could with dark circles, but I don't feel glowy when my dark circles are this dark. Oh, especially because I have not been sleeping. So I'm gonna color correct underneath my eyes. I'm gonna use my LA Girl Pro Concealer in Light Ivory. So just using this to warm up that darkness so my concealer doesn't look gray. Now, concealer. Typically, we're using concealer in more of the center of our face, usually to like add a little bit more coverage or to brighten. It depends on like if you're spot concealing or whatever. Spot concealing can happen anywhere on your face. But for me personally, I like to go for a slightly more like full coverage, slightly more matte finish, especially if you're someone who ends up with like more of an oily T-zone. You want to use something that's gonna be a little bit more matte. Some classic formulas, Tarte Shape Tape. This is actually the Ultra Creamy one. I don't know where my regular Shape Tape is. Ultra Creamy is more like hydrating, but I would say that it's more of like a satin finish. It's not necessarily going to be like too dewy, but if you have extremely oily skin, I would stick with like the regular Tarte. L'Oreal Infallible concealer, where is that? I don't know where it is, but it's like very similar to Tarte Shape Tape, but drugstore. Very nice coverage, definitely more on like the matte side. For me personally, I've just been using Rare Beauty. I stopped using this for a while, but I've gone back to it. I would say in terms of formula, it's somewhere in the middle. It's more of a satin kind of finish. Plus I just love the colors. Like I love it so much, but I find it to be like a very versatile kind of formula for different skin types. So I'm actually going to use this is 170W. This is not what I want. Where is it? I'm going to use 100W, which is very light. It's actually the lightest color. And I'm going to use this to highlight just underneath my eyes. So for me personally, I like to just brighten like right underneath my eyes and then this outer corner here. So I'm just going to place right in that area and then blend. And I am going to be using a damp beauty sponge, but this has been sitting for a while, so it doesn't really have very much moisture in it left. You can always like kind of wring it out with a paper towel if there's too much moisture, because again, if you're blending anywhere near your T-zone, too much moisture, you know, is going to end up making you look probably a little too oily or just add a little too much moisturizer. I'm going to focus this underneath my eyes to brighten. Don't really feel like I need like to brighten anywhere else. I'm kind of experimenting with just highlighting like right underneath my eyes, just in this area, to kind of like create the illusion that like your eyes are glowing. It brings all of the attention to your eyes, which is really beautiful. All right, I'm gonna grab my little Clio puff and I'm just gonna make sure that this area is nice and blended. It's going back in with whatever you applied your foundation with, so that I don't just have like this big white spot underneath my eye. Okay, so under eyes are looking nice and bright. As you can see, the formula of the concealer didn't really like add too much moisture. It hasn't like manipulated the formula that was down, the finish, I mean, that my foundation created. If I was using something that was like a little bit more on the dewy side, or maybe like a serum concealer, it could end up making this area just look like too hydrated. Speaking of glowy, for my under eyes, I'm gonna be using my e.l.f. Halo Glow Powder. Where is it? Where did it go? It's right here, which is my favorite under eye setting powder because it has like a nice finely milled pearl, so it has like a little bit of reflect. It's lightweight, it's brightening, so it's not going to make my under eyes look like way too matte. So I'm gonna load up my MAC 240S brush. I'm gonna make sure I'm nice and blended. And just gently pat right underneath my eye. So for now, I'm just focusing this like right in the hollow, where I really want to brighten, where I really needed that coverage. Ooh. Now my under eyes, I like to set immediately so that I don't end up with any creasing, which is why I just kind of like focused it right where I needed it, because I do have some little like spots that I want to spot conceal. So for that, I'm going to use my REPHR 23 brush, this tiny little like detail precision brush. And I'm going to do my little like custom concealing trick, which if you haven't seen, is in a video that I'll put up here. Before I go in with any face powder, just want to make sure that everything is nice and perfected. Okay, when it comes to setting your face, you want to be strategic, all right? So if you're trying to achieve glowy looking skin, you obviously don't want to like completely mattify your face. However, you do want to make sure that you're setting so that nothing is moving around, okay? So my favorite setting powder is the Givenchy Prism Lead powder in Satin Blanc. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm gonna put a tiny bit, I just kind of like do that in the cap. And then I'm gonna use this little Makeup Forever brush. This is the Wavy 156 brush. So I'm gonna tap in, tap off, tap in, tap off. So I'm not going in with way too much powder. And I'm going to use this to gently press in my T-zone. Okay, so I'm gonna focus powder in my T-zone really gently. And then once I have it in like an area where I tend to get a little bit oily, which is usually like around my nose, then I'll just take whatever's left over and blend outward, just gently. Taking whatever is left on that brush and just taking it around this part of my face. I'm gonna pick up a teeny bit more powder, again tapping it off, and go right between my brows. So just focusing it in the area that I don't want to look oily, okay? Which is usually the T-zone. But I don't want to take powder everywhere because I don't want to completely mattify. Like, we used a glowy foundation for a reason, okay? So when I turn my face, you can see even before highlighter, My skin has like a really beautiful, like hydrated look, really beautiful natural glow to the skin. But when you look at me here, you don't see any of that like oil reflect in like the inner part of my nose, which can be like a dead giveaway, okay? But because the foundation that I used is glowy but long lasting, I don't feel like I need to set the rest of my face. I don't have like, when I touch my face, it doesn't feel wet at all, you know? Like it's nice and set. I'm gonna take a little bit of that powder and I'm just going to set my lids so that they're not wet looking. Okay, for my blush, I'm going to use, oh, I don't know which one this is called. Peachy Scene from the Halo, the Smashbox Halo Sculpt and Glow palette. It's really pretty peach color. This is a new REPHR brush. I don't know what it is. It's got these pretty like flowers on it. I'll try to link it down below, but I've been loving it. There's two. I think it's like a special edition or something, but it's so nice. I'm gonna use that to apply the blush. So I'm just gonna dip in. And I'm choosing to use a powder blush to make sure that the center of my face doesn't end up looking oily. Plus I've already applied my powders. Sometimes I use cream blushes. It's just like gonna be up to you. But again, like consider the formulas and how they're all working together. So I'm gonna focus this up high on the cheekbone. Blending into that bronzer. So I'm starting off on the highest point of my cheekbone and then I'm just like lightly blending into that bronzer. So going from like contour, bronzer, blush. Another part of like looking glowy is how all of those colors are working together, okay? You wanna make sure that everything is nice and blended so it looks like it's just kind of like melted into the skin. I'm gonna take a teeny bit of that on that same brush and just hit the tip of the nose. Just barely, you can like barely see if there's just like a little hint of a glow. Now for my eyes, I'm gonna grab my 14 Max. This is my REPHR 14 Max brush. I have this Etude contour palette. I'm just gonna grab the slightly warmer shade. I'm gonna do just like a basic kind of contour to the eye. I'm gonna keep it really soft. So just giving the eye a little bit of shape, a little bit of warmth, blending up to the brow. Kind of just like in this shape, going around like my eye socket. I don't want to take it in too far here. Blending up to the brow, just to give like a little shape and like cohesion to the whole look. Obviously, we're talking mostly like skin, glowy skin, but there are little tricks that you can do to really tie in your eyes so that the whole look is glowy without looking oily. So for the eyes, I'm starting off with this soft matte. The way you apply this is going to depend heavily on your eye shape. For instance, if you have hooded eyes, you might just want to like cover your lid and then drag it out, maybe just a little bit at that outer corner. If you have extremely like defined eye sockets, then you don't necessarily need to like define them. You can kind of just run this on your lid and up, just very lightly. I'm gonna take a little bit of that on my REPHR 02 brush. Just run that along my lower lash line. This color is very similar to Anastasia Fawn, or I mean, similar-ish. It's kind of like in between my contour and my bronze colors, so it just ends up looking like a kind of one with all of those colors. Okay, I'm taking whatever's left over on that brush and just buff, like literally no additional product. I'm just gonna buff around my lid because I didn't use any eye primer. I just set with a little bit of powder. I want this to be very natural looking, but blended. Okay, so nice and soft, nice and blended. Now, my favorite part, the Prism highlighter. You already know I've been using this in like every single, pretty much since I received it, which was a while ago. I've been using it every time I do my makeup. I'm obsessed with it. Now, when it comes to choosing a highlighter, there are highlighters that I love that give like a glazed donut effect, you know what I mean? That are just like intense. For instance, the Rare Beauty highlighter is like intense. What I love about this is that it's extremely, like the base of it is slightly more on the sheer side, but it gives the most beautiful glow. I'm just gonna apply it because like, why am I talking about it? I'm going to use the Nikki LaRose BK Beauty N17 brush. So it's got these like pretty, look at that, these wavy grooves in it. Look at that reflect. Ugh, it's in the shade One Golden Sheer. So beautiful. So I just kind of like go against the grooves. And I'm just going to hit this C shape right here. Look at that. So can you see what I mean when I say that it's got like a slightly more sheer base? So it's slightly more translucent. It gives this beautiful, look at that glow. It gives this stunning reflect, but it doesn't, there's nothing opaque about it. There's nothing like overwhelming about it. So it gives you the option to build up, you know, the amount of glow that you want. And you can definitely build it up. Like you can get a glazed donut effect if you want. But if you want just like a really natural looking glow, like very bridal, very like glow from within, this is so beautiful as a powder highlight. So I'm focusing it right in this C shape. As you can see, I've been adjusting my skincare routine and I've got some like breakouts up here. So I'm trying not to highlight those because you highlight a breakout, I mean, is there anything that's gonna make you look oily more than like a glowing breakout? Probably not. So I'm just focusing it in this C shape, very top of my cheekbone, not taking it in too far. If I take it down here, it's gonna highlight texture and then it's gonna reverse everything that we did, right? It's gonna end up making my T-zone look really oily. One thing I do really like to do sometimes, I'm gonna avoid it this time, is kind of highlighting just above my eyebrow. That gives a really beautiful like glow to the face, but I kind of feel like that area looks nice and glowy with the foundation already, so I don't need to do that. So I'm just gonna focus that right there. Now I'm going to grab my Sigma E36 brush and pick up that highlight. I'm gonna dust just under the eyebrow. Okay, if you don't wanna do this, you don't have to, but I have such a difficult time not. I'm gonna hit the inner corner. Just the inner corner right in here. This area of my eye tends to get like a little bit dark, so I like to add a little bit of a reflect to it to open up the eyes and make it cohesive with the rest of the makeup look. Okay, beautiful, open, glowing, looks cohesive. Now I'm gonna use that same brush. I'm just gonna dust it right in the center of the lid. So I'm not gonna take it everywhere, okay? We went matte everywhere else on the eye. Just gonna create this sheer little reflect right in the center of the lid. I'm just gonna lightly dust it into that crease so we have no harsh lines, okay? You also have the option, take a little bit, put it right in the center of the lower lash line, which just helps to kind of like open up the eyes. Okay, so we're basically doing the exact same steps to the eyes that we did to the entire face, okay? Do you see that difference? This eye, totally matte. This eye, nice and glowy. I love it. It's like my go-to. I'm also going to hit just the very tip of the nose and a little bit the Cupid's bow, just a teeny bit. Don't need a lot. And just so you guys know, Clio is giving me a promo code for, you can get 30% off during this campaign period, which is April 1st through the 14th. So all of that information will be linked down below. All right, I'm gonna set my brows with a little bit of my Pears soap. All right, and finally, while I'm waiting for my brows to set, let's do mascara. So this is the new Clio Superproof Sharp Curl Mascara. I'll zoom you in so you can really see. So similar to my absolute fave, the long curling, it has a curl, so it has a sharp C curl to it. It's a little bit shorter and wider. Okay, so this is long curling and this is the sharp curling, okay? It's a little shorter and it's got a little bit sharper curve to it. So I'm gonna curl my lashes with my REPHR lash curler. So this mascara is also waterproof, clump and smudge proof, which is perfect for glowy makeup because I feel like I get a lot of comments from people saying that they're afraid of glowy makeup because their makeup transfers or their mascara will transfer. I've never had that problem with my Clio. And you guys know I love these formulas because my lashes are so straight and they do not hold a curl. Clio is the only one that will hold my lashes up. This is also like a soft, muted kind of black color. So it's very pretty for every day, especially if you are like more fair-skinned or you have blonde hair, or you don't like wearing like a super black mascara. Obviously you can, but it's a little bit softer. So that curved shape just helps curl those lashes and keep them curled. I wore this mascara the other day with like kind of a soft smoky eye, and it just ended up making it look a little bit less like severe, because my lashes just look a little bit more like natural and delicate. And obviously, because it's waterproof and smudge proof, you don't need to worry about transfer on your lower lash line. See how curled? But also like so natural looking, because they're not like so incredibly black. They're not like overwhelming for the rest of my like coloring, you know? All right, I'm gonna go in with the NYX Brow Tint Pen in Ash Brown. No, wait. Yeah, Ash Brown. Just to do a little bit of light filling. I wanna keep my brows soft to keep this look pretty natural. All right, to finish off, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the Skin Nude Lip Liner in 01 and the Skin Nude Lip in 03. All right, guys, here is the finished look. Beautiful, glowy, but not oily. No oil, okay? No oil to be seen anywhere. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. What? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was helpful in some way. Again, I have some videos that I like popped up in the corners that are very important. They go into depth with like some concepts that are regularly requested and important to understand for you to be able to achieve something like this, okay? If you are interested, obviously all of the Clio products and all of the products will be linked down below, but I've been obsessed. I absolutely love. Highly recommend any of them if you are interested. I don't remember if I mentioned this, but the foundation cushion does come as a set. So it comes with a refill, which is really nice. So you're not just buying this, it also comes with a refill, which is just a bonus. I hope this was helpful to anyone out there who wants to look dewy but not oily. Maybe you have some trouble with an oily T-zone. Let me know if this helped at all, or if you're still struggling with anything. I'll be happy to comment. I'll be happy to I'll be happy to answer questions in the comments down below. If you have any specific products or tricks that you would like to share with the class, please leave them in the comments. Let's help each other out, you know what I mean? Everybody's different, everybody's skin type's different, everybody's preference is different. I would love to hear what is working for you, or if you've tried any of these, or if you're interested in any of these products. Yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. Subscribe, comment, like, whatever, all the things, and see you in the next one.